Greetings, champions. I was once again out in Dalaran, sunbathing a bit. While I was getting a good tan, I asked myself who Zal'atath would send in a battle against us in midnight, and thought I'd share my thoughts with you. Once feared and proud warriors, they fought their battles in the shadows of the forests of Lordaeron, with an empire that has stood the test of time for thousands of years. They taught the High Elves and humans the true meaning of fear. We're talking about the trolls of the Amani. But after the murder of their greatest war hero, Zul'jin, their glory faded, and they slowly but surely disappeared from Azeroth's history. Conquered, betrayed, and humiliated, but their will was never broken. In midnight, we returned to wondrous Quel'Thalas, and with us, old and mighty enemies. And this enemy who, like a tiger, have waited patiently, lurking for their opportunity, ready to repay their enemies in double coin and reclaim their homeland. An evil just waiting to be unleashed by something that whispers in the darkness, something that promises great power, something called Zal'atath. Because revenge is only really sweet when it's served ice cold. The Amani are one of the oldest troll tribes on Azeroth, forest trolls with deep roots in the lands we now call Quel'Thalas. Long before the High Elves raised their crystal towers, the Amani roamed those ancient lands. The Elves invaded their lands, drove the Amani from their sacred sites, and built magical strongholds to keep them out. What followed was a bloody conflict which led to the First Troll War. The Amani fought with everything they had, but the Elves were too strong, empowered by the Sunwell, and later joined by the humans of the Arathi Kingdom. Even with the support of the Zandalari and the power of the lowest spirits, the trolls were unable to defeat their opponents. The humans lured the trolls into a war of attrition and then destroyed them in a magical inferno of flame. The war was lost. The Amani army was destroyed, but the hatred remained. And no Amani embodied that hatred more than Zul'jin, a warrior, a guerrilla leader, ruthless and relentless. He became a legend and a curse upon Quel'Thalas. And with him, the Second Troll War began. During the Second War, Anduin Lothar reminded the High Elves of the oath they had sworn his ancestor in order to secure their aid against the Horde. During the conflict, the new Amani warlord reunited all of the scattered forest troll tribes and allied with the Horde, eager to restore the glory of the Amani Empire and take revenge on the elves and humans for the events of the First Troll War. Over 9,000 of forest trolls streamed out of Zul'jin, ready for battle, and marched alongside the Horde. The Horde ravaged the countryside as it marched, burning villages to the ground and slaying every elf in its path towards Silvermoon. With the aid of the Dragon Maw clan, the Horde's siege destroyed much of Quel'Thalas' forces. But the elven sorcerers were able to tap into the Sunwell's power and create a colossal shield around the city. The mighty Sunwell formed a barrier that Doomhammer's forces found impossible to break through. The Horde smashed against the shield time and again, yet nothing was able to pierce through it. War Chief Orgrim Doomhammer was deeply displeased at this turn of events and broke off the siege of Silvermoon. Zul'jin and the Amani refused to abandon the siege of Silvermoon. They vowed not to cease their assault until all of High Elven civilization lay in ruins. Infuriated, Doomhammer was nonetheless forced to abandon the forest trolls. But Zul'jin refused to retreat. As the Amani fought on, the High Elven King sent spellcasters and priests to crush them once and for all. Near Daromir Lake, Zul'jin was cornered. He resisted fiercely, but his warriors fell, and he was captured by the elves. Chained to a stone pillar, Zul'jin was tortured for hours. Even his eye was gouged out as vengeance for old wounds. But the elves chose not to kill him, hoping to bring him to Silvermoon alive for judgment. But the decision backfired. In a daring raid, Amani warriors stormed the camp, and amid the chaos, Zul'jin was able to escape, cutting off his own arm to break free. Betrayed and battered, he retreated back to Zul'jin, waiting for a better chance to strike. During and after the Scourge invasion, the Amani repeatedly launched minor attacks on the remaining elven settlements. But unfortunately for them, the surviving elves joined the horde. And that was the beginning of the end for Zul'jin and Zul'jin. Although they had other warlords after the death of their hero Zul'jin, none of them was able to reclaim their former homeland. Even the support of the Zandalaris didn't help them either. But the Amani hate runs deep, and they will never rest until they get their vengeance. In the Midnight Expansion, at least for Season 1, we'll be heading to Lord Aaron and Quel'Thalas. Zal'atath is keen on the power of the Sunwell, but without a powerful army, that won't work. She's already suffered several setbacks. The Nerubians and Skardan are weakened, and the Shadow Guard have betrayed her. She clearly needs new pawns for her chessboard. And who would be better suited to this than a people whose entire culture is based on vengeance and war, and who is also an archenemy of the High Elves? In addition, the Amani are weakened by past conflicts, and their old enemy, the Arathi Empire, is making its way into the Old World. Xal'atath will have an easy time winning them over, because in the end, they need each other. I think it's clear and logical. We will face the Amani in the field and discover their entire remaining empire in the east of Zul'jin. Surrounded by their enemies, the Amani have their backs against the wall, and no one is coming to their aid. Except perhaps someone who shares their enemies in their rage. Someone we have forgotten about. Someone who wants to take revenge. In Nazmir, the blood trolls lost everything. The Zandalari crushed their forces, the Horde destroyed their altars, and Gahan, whom they worshipped as a god, was destroyed and buried deep beneath Uldir. Zul, their prophet, was brought back by the black blood of the old gods. But even that wasn't enough. He fell, and with him, the cult. But the blood remained, and it's more powerful than many believe. It has brought back the dead, corrupted Loa, and contaminated entire regions. This blood isn't just a residue. It's a lethal weapon. And while the official chronicles, such as Exploring Azeroth, the Islands and Isles, state that not a single blood troll remains in Nazmir, no one has ever asked where they might have gone. Zal'atath betrayed us and freed herself from the blade. And we know she wasn't idle. On the contrary, she went searching, not for war, not for glory, but for new servants. Perhaps she found them in the remains of the blood trolls. Lost, raging creatures, bereft of their unholy god, hungry and vengeful. She offered them no false promises. She offered them vengeance, a new truth beyond the veil, not as a goddess, but as the heir to the Black Empire. And with the return of the Arathi Empire, complete with airships and sacred flame, the last bit of home now threatens to fall as well. History seems to be repeating itself. The Amani are facing their end, but then a mysterious figure steps out of the shadows. He calls himself Zul. Whether it's truly the same one we defeated, or just an imitator, is unclear. He speaks of betrayal, of old wounds, and of one last chance to destroy all their enemies. Then a void portal opens, and Zal'atath herself steps through. In her hand, a small vial filled with the black blood. The Amani listen, and for the first time in a long time, they see a future in which they don't lose. Deep in the forests of Zul'jin, something is beginning to grow. Not a new empire, but something dark. Something strange and sinister. Blood trolls unleashing their ancient magic once again. Contaminated blood seeping into the earth. Dark rituals beneath whispering trees. and goblins, never loyal but always enterprising, are delivering new weapons. Weapons that don't harm enemies, but dissolve them. The war has changed, and even if the Alliance and Horde join forces, it may already be too late. For the Amani have only two options: win with Zal'atath, or perish without her. The situation is hopeless. The trolls and Nerubians are mobilizing their forces. And above all, a sinister power whispers, older than anything this land has ever known. Zal'atath has begun her war. The first uprising is flaring up in the south of the ancient Arathi Empire. Forest trolls from the hinterlands, who had previously held back, are suddenly attacking Alliance outposts again. Airy Peak and Stromgarde City are experiencing daily attacks. But it's not about conquest. It's about buying time for the real battle. Hit-and-run tactics, sabotage, ambushes. They're forcing the Alliance to tie down its troops, far away from the north. At the same time, the Nerubians begin to spread throughout eastern Lordaeron. Their tunnels extend from Ashgahate to the Plague Lands. They occupy choke points, strategic corridors such as Corrin's Crossing, the Thondrail River, and Greenwood Pass. They build them into fortresses and lock them down. No one marches through their new territories without risking massive losses. This leaves the Alliance and the Horde with only one way to send reinforcement: the western coast of Quel'Thalas. But the enemy lurks there too. The Nerubians have dug their way to the shore, attacking from behind, devouring supply trains, and raiding supplies. An endless, silent horror. Quel'Thalas is cut off from the world, and that is exactly the plan. In the north, the Amani are returning. Together with the blood trolls, they are occupying their ancient ruins in the Eversong Woods and burning the border outposts. At the same time, Nerubian raiding parties are marching from the south into Tranquil Lean, occupying key outposts along the way. And they are not alone. Goblins from Undermine are supplying siege engines powered by black blood. This coordinated attack leads to one goal: the destruction of Silvermoon. Cut off from the world, the Blood Elves watch as their enemies begin the siege of their hometown. They fight with everything they have, but the ring is tightening. The shadows are growing, and while the defenders hold the enemy at the gates of Silvermoon, disaster strikes elsewhere. Under the cover of chaos, void rifts open. Zal'atath emerges, accompanied by her elite followers, blood troll priests, void troll warriors, and ascended Nerubians. But their target is not the city. Their target is the Sunwell, the source of immense arcane power. The assault on the Sunwell starts, with all eyes turning south, and the elves' final stand begins. You don't believe me? You think this all sounds too crazy, too far-fetched? No problem. I have proof. An old friend, an ethereal who prefers to remain anonymous, intercepted the communication between Zal'atath and a still unknown Amani warlord and passed it on to me. Unfortunately, I can't show it in this video. You know, shadow powers, NDAs, void censorship, and all that. But I've recently become active on X as well, and I've published the entire chat history there. So feel free to stop by, follow me there, and leave me a little love with a like, a comment, or whatever you can get your hands on. And I'd also like to give props to IK Edit. I took a few snippets from the Zul'jin and Sunwell trailers and used them in this video. Check out his channel. He's given a lot of cool old school WoW trailers a makeover, and they look absolutely fantastic. And that's also the end of the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.